Super Rugby Power Rankings, folks. We're going to rank the 12 teams. Once again, it's the second week we've got the 12 teams combined on the log. We did the dirty on the Aussies last week because only one of their teams managed to get a win. That was the Brumbies over the lowly Highlanders. I haven't changed things drastically for the second round, even though the Aussie teams did a lot better. It was my favourite round of Super Rugby for a long time. I'll just put that there. My Blues getting a win certainly didn't hurt my feelings for the round. So, yeah, pleasing stuff. But we'll get to the rankings and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how they're looking. We've still got the Drua in 12th. They lost at home. They had the best crowd we've seen all year. They are actually 11th on the table, so they're one spot better than what we've got them here. But it was another loss. It was to the Highlanders, who aren't exactly a really high-ranked team. It was a close game, though. And based on the first half, there's certainly some encouraging signs, but they are still in 12th. Down one spot, interestingly, go the Force. Now, it's a discouraging one because I thought the Force played really well, and I feel bad to put them down because based on what we saw in Perth, they should be going up. But it's kind of hard to reward a team who lose at home, and that's what happened to the Force. So, like I said, as bad as it looks for them to be going down on my board, I'm encouraged by what we saw on the pitch. So, yeah, it kind of doesn't compute with what we saw. Likewise, the Rebels actually got a win. So the Rebels are up one spot. I'm not trying to do the dirty on the Rebels. They are actually up. They got a win over Moana, Pacifica. It was close. It was a hard worked, fought win, but it was still a win. So the Rebels have gone up on the table. Remember, they started the season absolutely atrociously, so they're kind of making up for a bit of lost ground. And then Moana, Pacifica maybe are overranked a little bit here because they're the last team on the table. But I'm kind of giving them a little bit of credit for playing some tough opponents at the start of the competition and having to do those back-to-back-to-back weeks, whilst that doesn't include in my calculation. It does a little bit, but they've not been convincing for ninth spot. They are last on the table. So, yeah, still a little bit confused with Moana Pacifica, but to be fair and credit to them, I mean, they were away in Melbourne and only just lost. So maybe you could swap them in the Rebels and that'd be fair. Maybe you should swap them in the Force. That'd be fair. Either way, I think these teams maybe are fair to their bottom row anyway. Next, out of the bottom row and upper spot are the Highlanders. Moana Pacifica were down. So the Highlanders are up with that away win in Fiji. It was much needed and it was also pretty hard fought. Most of the wins this week were pretty hard fought, to be fair. So, yeah, the Highlanders, they had to work for it in Fiji. They certainly had the crowd against them, which was pleasing because you want that crowd to get behind the new team, the Drua. But it's the second win for the Landers, so maybe this is a turning point for their season. They'll need to have a strong finish to the season to try and get themselves up the table because they are in 10th at the moment. 7th spot, I got the Reds, and since the Trans-Tasman games, you'd have to say whereas like the Brumbies have been encouraging, the Force with their loss was encouraging, the Rebels' win was encouraging, and then their performance against the Crusaders wasn't terrible. The Drua against the Highlanders were encouraging. The Reds have genuinely been a bit middling to disappointing. They've lost 2 games. So yeah, I've got them down a spot. It was a close loss to the Chiefs. They kicked a wee bit too much ball. I know they're without James O'Connor, but the Chiefs were and Jordan Petaia, but the Chiefs were without like 13 guys. So no excuses there. I think down a spot, the Reds genuinely have been maybe the biggest disappointment of the two Trans-Tasman rounds. Right, like they were pretty high flying. And the Brumbies show us what they can do. It's a bit disappointing the Reds haven't done the same just yet. The Canes are down 2 spots. We had them top row last week, but then they had the biggest loss of the week in what was probably supposed to be one of the better games. The Brumbies just did the job over the Canes pretty easily in the end. So disappointing for the Hurricanes, down 2 spots to get that big away loss. I guess we do have to keep in mind that all the New Zealand teams were away this week. So that's maybe can't be too hard on them. But still, it was a disappointing loss. Not disappointing was the Tars. Pretty much given no hope against the the Crusaders, they managed to get a close win, a famous victory over the Crusaders. Man, the Crusaders don't lose that many games every season, so if you're going to be one of the teams to beat them, you need to put in a pretty good shift, and the Tars did that, so up 2 spots for them. Good reward, and they are certainly looking night and day better than last year. Top row, and we have got the Brumbies here. Still maybe being a little bit hard done by because they're second, only 1 point behind the Blues. But time will tell. Remember, they've got the Chiefs this week over here in NZ, so this will be a good test for where they are really at. I'm still not convinced by my Blues, and my Blues are still up the table a bit further from them. Every result that I look at for the Blues, I can look at something and go, if something else had gone against us, we would have lost that one. Like if the Force had kicked their goals, if the Chiefs, when we played them, hadn't had so many denied tries, and so on and so on. So I don't want to rain on the Brumbies parade. I'm really happy with how they're going. I think they're a really good team, but the way the calculation has come out, it's got them a 4th, but not too far behind the Crusaders, who are down a spot with that loss to the Waratahs. That's a game that we're not used to them losing, eh? They certainly came out angry and with a purpose in that second half. And normally that's the kind of game the Crusaders, if they've had one bad half, they come out firing in the second half and get it done. Well, they came out firing and just fell short. So, yeah, Crusaders for 3rd, but don't be sleeping on them. The Chiefs are up a spot with that away win in Brisbane. Like I said, it was genuinely a pretty impressive job to go away to the Reds at Suncorp, which is a bit of a fortress. They got a good record this season, but they have been disappointing in 2 weeks now. But the Chiefs still had to get the job done. They did it. And that leaves my Blues in top spot. Unconvincing against the Force. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to find reasons in my head to tell myself the Blues are going to throw this all away at some point. If the Force had kicked their goals, man, the Blues lose that game in Perth. Dominated at times. The Drua put us under pressure. It's an unconvincing first, but it's still a first. The record is still a pretty tough one to argue with. We'll see how the Blues go with the remaining few rounds. But there you go, folks. Certainly not perfect. It's been a hard one to merge. The first round, it was looking a bit ominous for the Aussie teams, but the second round of the Trans-Tasman games was a real peach of a round. So we will see how things go for the remainder. You guys let me know your thoughts on how things are looking, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.